I found a positive pregnancy test in my husband's car. The pharmacy receipt exposed his mistress's real name. The positive pregnancy test rolled out from beneath my husband's driver's seat while I was searching for the inhaler he claimed he had lost. A T struck the heel of my shoe and stopped with the result window facing upward. Two bright pink lines. For several seconds, I remained crouched beside Daniel's black SUV in our garage, staring at a piece of white plastic that had just divided my life into before and after. I was not pregnant. Daniel and I had not even tried in almost 2 years. After my second miscarriage, he had told me that watching me suffer had changed him. He said he no longer cared whether we had children. He said our marriage was enough. 6 months later, without telling anyone except me, he had undergone a vasectomy, had driven him home from the procedure. The test could not belong to me, and unless Daniel's doctor had lied, it should not belong to any woman carrying his child. A folded pharmacy receipt lay beneath the test. I picked it up with shaking fingers. The purchase had been made 3 days earlier at Lakeview Family Pharmacy, 20 miles from our home. 1 Pregnancy test, prenatal vitamins. Anti-nausea wristbands. The receipt was linked to a customer rewards account. Customer, Marin Price. Did not know anyone named Marin Price, but I knew the woman who had recently spent more time with my husband than I had, Claire Dawson. Daniel's new director of strategic partnerships had accompanied him to 3 out-of-state meetings in the past month. She was elegant, funny, and relentlessly attentive. At our company holiday dinner, she had touched Daniel's sleeve each time she laughed. When I asked about it later, he called me insecure, photographed the test and receipt before putting them into a clean envelope. Then I searched Marin Price's name. The first result was an 8-year-old newspaper article. Daughter of convicted fertility clinic founder disappears after sentencing. The photograph beneath the headline showed a 19-year-old woman with long dark hair. She was younger and thinner. But I recognized her eyes. Marin Price was Claire Dawson, and 8 years earlier, I had helped send her mother to prison. Before Daniel became my husband, I was a forensic accountant specializing in healthcare fraud. My father, Thomas Bennett, had founded Bennett Financial Integrity from a rented office above a dentist's practice. I joined him after graduate school and eventually built our healthcare investigations division. Our most famous case involves the Aurora Fertility Network. Aurora's founder, Dr. Celeste Price, had billed patients and insurers for treatments that never occurred. She had falsified laboratory records, charged families for embryos that did not exist, and transferred patient funds into shell companies. Several women later alleged that their genetic material had been used without proper consent. The criminal investigation had focused primarily on financial fraud because the medical allegations were harder to prove. My work traced more than $30 million through offshore accounts. Dr. Price went to prison, the clinic collapsed, her husband disappeared before prosecutors could question him, and her daughter, Marin, vanished from public view. Had not thought about Marin Price in years. Now she worked inside my company under a false identity, and a positive pregnancy test purchased under her real name had been hidden beneath my husband's seat. Was still in the garage when Daniel opened the door from the kitchen. Avery? I slid the envelope into my handbag. He stepped into the garage wearing the navy suit I had bought him for our 10th anniversary. At 42, Daniel Cross was still the kind of man strangers noticed. Tall, polished, and practiced at making every person feel as though they had his full attention. That talent had once made me fall in love with him. Now I wondered how many lies he had delivered with the same warm expression. Did you find my inhaler? He asked. No, he glanced toward the open driver's door. What were you doing in the car? Looking for it. His eyes moved to my handbag. For one brief moment, fear crossed his face. Then he smiled. I probably left it at the office. Were you at Lakeview Family Pharmacy on Tuesday? The smile remained, but his body became completely still. No. Why? I thought I saw a charge. On which card? I watched him calculate. Our joint card. That must be a mistake. Maybe. He leaned forward and kissed my forehead. I have to leave. Claire is waiting at the office. Marin, I thought. Her name is Marin. Before Daniel reached the garage door, I asked, how much do you really know about Claire Dawson? His hand stopped on the handle, then he turned and laughed. What kind of question is that? The kind a wife asks when another woman spends more time with her husband than she does. His expression softened into practiced concern. Avery, we discussed this. Claire is leading the Roe acquisition. It isn't an acquisition yet. It will be if you stop resisting every reasonable proposal. Bennett Financial Integrity had grown into a national forensic advisory firm. My father's trust still controlled 51% of the voting interest. I owned another 12% personally, Daniel owned 24%, the remaining shares belonged to senior partners. Daniel wanted to sell our healthcare division to Roe Meridian Capital for $90 million, had refused because the deal gave the buyer access to confidential case archives. Daniel called my refusal emotional. I called it professional responsibility. He opened the garage door. Do not make Claire into a problem because you're anxious about the sale. Then he left. He had not asked why I mentioned the pharmacy. He had not asked what charge I had seen. He already knew. I did not confront Claire. I did not call Daniel's doctor. I did not send an angry message that could later be described as harassment. Instead, I treated the receipt as I would treat any suspicious document. First, I preserved the original in a fireproof evidence envelope. Second, I photographed both sides beside a date-stamped newspaper. Third, I wrote down exactly where and when I had found it. Then I examined every line. The payment card ended in 4419. It was not one of our joint cards. The rewards account had earned points from earlier purchases. The receipt showed a balance of 8,420 points, which meant Marin had used the same account repeatedly. The bottom was an order reference for a laboratory serviced NIP collection KIT. Paid in full. NIPP stood for non-invasive prenatal paternity. The pharmacy had not only sold her a pregnancy test, T had arranged a paternity test. My stomach tightened. Claire believed Daniel was the father. Why had she already purchased a paternity kit? I called the pharmacy without identifying myself as Daniel's wife. I found a receipt with a laboratory service abbreviation, I said. Can you tell me what NIPP means? The pharmacist explained that customers could purchase collection kits through the store, but blood draws and testing were handled by an outside laboratory. Can anyone collect the test? I asked. Both alleged parents must provide identification and consent. Does the pharmacy keep the results? No. The laboratory communicates directly with the customer. After hanging up, I searched the laboratory listed on the receipt, Northstar Genetic Services. Its website offered prenatal paternity testing from the 7th week of pregnancy. The test required blood from the pregnant woman and a cheek swab from the alleged father. Daniel had participated. Someone had submitted a sample in his name. Checked our insurance portal. Daniel's medical claims showed no recent fertility procedures, but one entry caught my attention. 3 months earlier, he had undergone a post-vasectomy semen analysis. He had told me the appointment was an annual physical. The claim code showed the result had been reviewed by a urologist. Could not legally access his detailed medical record without permission, but I did not need to. The test itself proved that Daniel had been checking whether his vasectomy remained effective. Why? My phone rang. It was Claire. Avery, she said brightly. Daniel mentioned you had questions about the Roe presentation. I do. Wonderful. I'm free for lunch tomorrow. I'd rather meet today. A pause. I'm booked all afternoon. At Lakeview Family Pharmacy? The silence lasted less than 2 seconds, but it was enough. Then Claire laughed. I don't know what you mean. I must have the wrong person. You probably do. Her tone had changed. The warmth had vanished. Before she ended the call, she said, Avery, stress can make ordinary things look suspicious. It was almost exactly what Daniel had told me. They were not merely sleeping together. They were rehearsing together. Asked our human resources director for Claire's employment file under the pretext of reviewing leadership credentials before the acquisition, because I was chairwoman and majority voting owner. The request was ordinary. Claire's resume claimed she had graduated from Stanford and spent 6 years at a healthcare consultancy in San Francisco. Her Social Security verification had passed. Her references had answered calls. Her background check report showed no criminal history. It was too clean. Experienced fraud investigators learned to distrust perfection. contacted Stanford's registrar through our standard credential verification process. No, Claire Dawson with her birth date had graduated from the program listed. The San Francisco consultancy existed, but it had dissolved 4 years earlier. Its former managing director claimed not to remember her. Claire's first listed reference used a prepaid phone number activated 3 days before her background check searched the corporate filings for the consultancy. Its administrative contact had once been Gavin Rowe, the founder of Rowe Meridian Capital, the same private equity firm trying to buy our healthcare division. Daniel had described Claire as an independent hire. In reality, she had been connected to the buyer before entering our company. I called my attorney, Lena Ortiz. Lena had represented my father before becoming my personal counsel. She was direct, patient, and nearly impossible to intimidate. Do not access her medical records, Lena warned after I explained the pregnancy test. I haven't. Do not follow her, enter her home, or confront her privately. I won't. Preserve the receipt and the employment inconsistencies. We can investigate the corporate conflict. What about Daniel? Has he transferred money? I haven't checked yet. Check only accounts you are authorized to review. I opened our joint financial records. Daniel had withdrawn $45,000 from a home equity line 6 weeks earlier. The transfer description read property renovation, had renovated nothing. The funds went to Dawson Residential Consulting. The company had been formed 3 months earlier. Its registered agent was Claire Dawson. Its mailing address was a luxury apartment building near Lake Michigan. Daniel had paid for her home. I found another transfer point, $12,000 to North Star Genetic Services. The date was 1 day after the pharmacy receipt. The payment card ending in 4419 belonged to a corporate expense account, not Daniel's personal account. The company had paid for the mistress's paternity test. That converted adultery into financial misconduct. I called Lena again. Before I could explain, my corporate email stopped working. A message appeared on the screen. Her account has been temporarily suspended by the system administrator. Then Daniel called. We need to talk, he said. About Claire? About your unauthorized access to a pregnant employee's private information. I had not told him I knew she was pregnant. Claire had, and they had already prepared their counterattack. The board meeting was scheduled for 8 the next morning. Daniel had moved quickly. The agenda accused me of misusing executive authority to investigate Claire's medical status after becoming jealous of their professional relationship. Did not admit the affair. Claire submitted a written statement claiming I had called her repeatedly, questioned her whereabouts, and attempted to obtain confidential information about her pregnancy. Had called her once, she had called me. Her statement reversed the direction. Our human resources director, Mark Fulton, claimed I had demanded Claire's medical file, had requested her employment credentials. The difference mattered, but Daniel understood that scandal moved faster than clarification. Why 7 that evening? 2 board members had called to ask whether I needed time away. One used the phrase emotional exhaustion, another mentioned my miscarriages. Daniel had weaponized the most painful years of my life before publicly admitting what he had done. Returned home at 9, sat at the kitchen island with the pharmacy receipt sealed inside my handbag. Daniel removed his coat and placed his phone face down. Avery, I wanted to handle this privately. Then why did you call a board meeting? Because you involved the company. You used corporate money to pay for Claire's apartment and paternity test. His face went blank. I don't know what you're talking about. The expense account ending in 4419. You accessed restricted financial information. I am the chairwoman. You are also my wife, and you are confusing the 2 roles. Is Claire pregnant? He sat across from me. Yes. The word came without hesitation. Is the child yours? I believe so. You had a vasectomy. Vasectomies fail. You had a follow-up analysis 3 months ago. His eyes narrowed. You accessed my medical records? I saw the insurance claim. That is a violation of my privacy. You had sex with another woman. That does not give you unlimited rights over me. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. How long? I asked. A year. I looked at the man I had slept beside every night. A year meant our anniversary trip, Thanksgiving with my mother, the night he held me while I cried because the nursery we had once planned had become a storage room. Did you bring her into our company before or after the affair? Claire was qualified. Her resume is false. He looked away for the first time. You're wrong. Her real name is Marin Price. His head snapped back. That was the answer. He knew. Daniel leaned forward. Listen to me carefully. You have no idea what you've involved yourself in. I found a test in your car. You should have left it there. Why? Because Claire's identity is protected. By whom? He did not answer. Does Gavin Rowe know who she is? Daniel stood. Tomorrow, the board will suspend you pending an ethics review. If you cooperate, it will be temporary. And if I don't? You could lose your leadership position permanently. You cannot take the company. His expression hardened. I don't need to take it if the other partners decide you're too unstable to lead it. He walked away. I remained in the kitchen until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I opened my handbag. The evidence envelope was gone. Daniel had taken the pregnancy test and receipt. He must have removed them while I was speaking to Lena earlier that evening. For several minutes, panic overwhelmed training. Searched the handbag twice, then the kitchen drawers, then the garage. Nothing. The original evidence had disappeared. Daniel believed he had erased the beginning of the trail. He had forgotten the photographs. More importantly, he had forgotten the rewards number printed on the receipt. I had written it down. Lena arrived before midnight. You need to leave the house, she said. It is my house. And he has already entered your belongings and removed evidence. Until we understand the risk, you should not sleep here. I packed one suitcase and drove to my father's old townhouse, which remained in the Bennett family trust. On the way, I received an email from Claire. The subject line read, "Stop." The message contained one sentence: "You do not understand what your father did to my family." That was not the message of an innocent employee. It was the message of Marin Price. Forwarded it to Lena.at the townhouse. I opened the archive from the Aurora fertility investigation. Why father had insisted that critical working papers be preserved offline. Most records had later been transferred to regulators, but our internal index remained. Marin appeared in only 3 documents. She had been 19 when her mother was arrested. Her father was listed as Leonard Price, Aurora's chief financial officer. He vanished 2 days before federal agents raided the clinic. Investigators suspected he had taken part of the missing money. Marin publicly accused my father and me of destroying her family. Then she disappeared. A note in my father's handwriting appeared beside Leonard Price's name. Possible Rowe connection. Do not close. Had never seen it. Why father died of a heart attack 6 months after the trial. The firm's partners encouraged me to move on. The criminal case was finished, and the unproven Rowe connection was considered speculation. Now Gavin Rowe was trying to buy the division that contained the Aurora files. Marin Price was sleeping with my husband. And Daniel had paid for her paternity test with company money. The pregnancy was not the center of the scheme. It was the clue they had accidentally left in his car.at2 in the morning. Lena called. The board packet has been amended, she said. What did Daniel add? A proposed vote authorizing the Rowe sale. He cannot approve that while I'm suspended. He claims your father's trust allows temporary delegation if you are under an ethics investigation. It delegates voting authority to the independent trustee. Who is the trustee? My Uncle Robert. Lena was silent. Uncle Robert had called me earlier and urged me to accept temporary leave. Now I understood why. Daniel had already reached him. The next morning, I entered the boardroom through a wall of whispers. Daniel sat at the head of the table. Claire was beside him, wearing a cream-colored dress that made the beginning of her pregnancy visible only if a person already knew to look. She placed one protective hand over her stomach when I entered. T was a calculated gesture. Every person in the room saw it. Daniel opened the meeting. Avery, this is not about our marriage. Then why is your mistress sitting at the board table? Claire lowered her eyes. Daniel sighed as though I had embarrassed him. This is exactly the conduct we're concerned about. Mark from Human Resources presented Claire's complaint. She claimed I had used my authority to investigate her private life, pressured employees for medical information, and threatened her career. I investigated falsified credentials and undisclosed conflicts with a potential buyer, I said. After discovering her pregnancy, Daniel replied, after discovering her real name. Claire looked up, the room shifted. What does that mean? One partner asked. Placed the photograph of the pharmacy receipt on the screen. Daniel's attorney objected. It is private medical evidence stolen from Mr. Cross's vehicle. The vehicle is marital property, parked in my home. The receipt documents a corporate charge. Claire stared at the image of her real name, then she began to cry. My name was changed after my family received threats, she said. Avery knows that. She investigated my mother. Daniel placed a hand on Claire's shoulder. The gesture was intimate and deliberate. My humiliation had become part of his presentation. Uncle Robert spoke through video. Avery, I think temporary leave is best for everyone. You are the trustee of my father's voting interest. Did Daniel promise you anything? His face reddened. That accusation proves you are not thinking clearly. The board voted 5-4. I was suspended from executive authority for 30 days pending investigation. My access to company systems, archives, and offices was revoked. Uncle Robert then exercised the trust's voting rights in favor of opening final negotiations with Roe Meridian, not approving the sale, not yet, but close enough to create momentum. As security escorted me toward the elevator, Daniel followed. You could have avoided this, he said. You planned it before I found the test. Yes. His honesty stopped me. He lowered his voice, but the pregnancy forced us to move sooner. Us? Claire and me. I looked through the boardroom glass. Gavin Rowe had entered through the private door. Claire was no longer crying, she was smiling at him, and when Daniel turned away, Gavin placed his hand briefly against the small of her back. It was not the touch of a businessman greeting an employee. It was the touch of a lover. Daniel believed Claire's baby was his. Claire was also sleeping with Gavin Rowe, or had been. That explained the paternity test. I needed proof, not instinct. The pharmacy receipt showed the NIPP collection kit had been purchased 3 days earlier. Daniel's corporate payment to North Star Genetic Services occurred the next day. If the testing proceeded, results might already exist. Could not obtain them without legal authority, but I could establish timing. Claire had told Human Resources she was 14 weeks pregnant, reviewed Daniel's travel calendar from my own saved copies. During the likely conception period, Daniel and Claire had attended a conference in Boston. Gavin Rowe had been there too. All three stayed at the same hotel. Daniel left the conference unexpectedly for one night. He had flown home for his mother's emergency surgery, remembered picking him up at the airport. Claire remained in Boston. Oh, did Gavin. The medical estimate of conception could vary by days, but the timeline created doubt. I checked the corporate expense records I had lawfully downloaded before my suspension. Gavin's private company had paid for an additional hotel suite that night. The registered guest was C. Dawson. Claire had 2 rooms. 1 booked by Bennett Financial Integrity. 1 booked by Gavin Rowe. I called the hotel and requested copies through our existing corporate audit authorization. The employee initially refused, but after Lena issued a preservation notice, the hotel confirmed that surveillance and keycard records would be retained. The answer would require subpoena or consent. Had neither yet. Then my phone displayed a message from an unknown number. Daniel is not the father. A second message followed. Neither of them knows I contacted you. Who is this? I typed. The response contained a photograph. Claire sat in a restaurant booth beside Gavin. His hand rested over hers. The date stamp was from 2 months earlier. Another image showed them entering the Lakeview pharmacy together. Not Daniel. Gavin had been present when the test was purchased. Why are you helping me? I asked. The answer came after several minutes. Because Claire promised me she was gathering evidence against Gavin. She lied. Who are you? No response. Instead, the sender uploaded a short audio file. Claire's voice said, once Daniel signs the sale, he becomes unnecessary. Gavin replied, and the baby? Claire laughed softly. The baby is your insurance policy, not his. The recording ended. I listened 3 times. Someone close to Claire was betraying her, but anonymous evidence could be manipulated. I needed the original device. Before I could respond, the sender deleted the conversation. Only one message remained: check the watch she left in conference room 6. Chapter 9. The smartwatch. Conference room 6 was inside the headquarters building I had been ordered not to enter. But I still owned the building through the Bennett Property Trust. My suspension restricted company operations, not my rights as landlord. Lena nevertheless advised caution. We send a neutral property manager, she said. What if Daniel has already found the watch? Then you entering personally changes nothing except the risk. The building manager inspected the room after business hours. Beneath a chair, he found a smartwatch with a cracked band. The watch belonged to Claire. Its screen displayed her photograph. Lena arranged for an independent digital forensics specialist to preserve the device without opening personal content beyond what was legally necessary to identify ownership and protect potential corporate evidence. The watch had been recording an audio note when the band broke. The file was 14 minutes long. Claire and Gavin discussed the row sale. Gavin told her Daniel could control my uncle but not me, Claire replied. Then we make Avery look unstable until the partners are afraid of her. They discussed the pregnancy. Claire told Gavin the child was probably his. She had submitted both men's samples to Northstar using separate case numbers. Daniel believed she was testing only him. Gavin knew there were 2 tests. Then the conversation shifted. What happens when Daniel discovers who your father is? Gavin asked. Claire answered. Leonard is dead. No body was found. He is dead to me. And the money? Still missing. Gavin lowered his voice. Avery's father found the second ledger. If it remains in the archive, the sale exposes all of us. Claire said. Then the archive burns before closing. The recording ended. My father had found a second financial ledger linking Gavin Rowe to Aurora's stolen funds. Daniel and Claire intended to destroy our archives after the sale. The pregnancy was leverage, the affair was access. The real target was evidence. He copied the smartwatch recording and notified law enforcement about the threatened destruction of company records. But before investigators could obtain a warrant, Daniel publicly announced that the Rowe acquisition gala would occur in 10 days. During the same announcement, Claire stepped onto the stage. Daniel placed one hand over hers. We also want to share that we are expecting a child, he said. The entire event was live-streamed. He had not filed for divorce. I was still his wife. Yet he introduced his pregnant mistress beside our company logo and called it a new beginning. My phone filled with messages. Some offered sympathy, others blamed me. Then Daniel looked directly into the camera. Avery has chosen not to participate in this next chapter. He smiled, thought he had already written my ending. Chapter 10. My father's locked room. The original Aurora case archive was stored in a secure records facility beneath our oldest office. Only 3 people had full access. Daniel, Uncle Robert. As trustee. My access credentials had been suspended. Daniel had already scheduled an archive modernization project for the week before the gala. The records would be scanned, transferred, and the paper files destroyed according to retention policy. It was exactly what Claire had described. The archive would burn without a flame. Asked Uncle Robert to meet me at my father's townhouse. He arrived defensive. I only did what I believed was best for the firm. You voted with the man having an affair inside our company. Your marriage is not the trust's concern. Did Daniel offer you a board position after the sale? Robert looked away. That was enough. How much? It wasn't a payment. Rowe Meridian intends to establish an advisory council. And you would receive $200,000 annually. In exchange for voting my father's shares. In exchange for my expertise. My father made you trustee because he trusted you. He also treated me like the stupid younger brother for 40 years. The bitterness surprised me. This was older than Daniel, older than the sale. Did my father ever mention a second Aurora ledger? Robert's expression changed. No, you're lying. He stood. This interrogation is finished. When he reached the door, I said, if the archive is destroyed, you may be charged with helping conceal evidence. He turned. I didn't know about any destruction. Then help me prevent it. For a long moment, he said nothing. Finally, he removed an old brass key from his pocket. Your father had a private records room beneath the main archive, he said. Daniel doesn't know it exists. Why do you? I helped build the shelving. What is inside? Thomas never told me. The key opened a steel door hidden behind movable filing cabinets. Lena and I entered with an independent archivist and a video record. The room contained 40 boxes. Most held duplicate case documents. One shelf was labeled Aurora, unresolved. Inside the final box was a black ledger, and why father's note lay on top. Gavin Rowe attempts to acquire this firm. The acquisition is not the goal. The ledger is. Beneath the note was a photograph of Leonard Price. Claire's missing father was standing beside Daniel. The photograph had been taken 3 years after Leonard supposedly disappeared. Daniel had known Claire's father before hiring her. Chapter 11. Daniel's second life. The photograph was dated 4 years earlier. Daniel and Leonard Price stood outside a marina in the Cayman Islands. That time, Daniel had told me he was attending an insurance conference in Miami. The Black Ledger documented payments from Aurora Fertility Network to offshore companies controlled by Gavin Rowe. One company had later transferred money to Daniel. The first payment was made 6 years earlier. 3 years before Claire joined our firm. Daniel's betrayal had not begun with an affair, he had been financially connected to the Aurora fraud network for years. Lena brought in federal investigators, gave them the ledger, the photograph, the smartwatch recording, and copies of the corporate payments. Connected to Claire, they opened an inquiry but warned us not to reveal investigative details publicly. That limitation created a problem. The acquisition vote was scheduled before prosecutors could act, needed to stop the sale through corporate law and evidence I could lawfully present. The Black Ledger showed Rowe's undisclosed conflict with a past client, which should disqualify the transaction. But Daniel could challenge authenticity. Why father was dead, Leonard was missing, the original entries needed corroboration. Traced a recurring ledger code to a storage company in Indiana. The company had maintained Aurora's backup billing tapes. Its retired manager, Helen Brooks, remembered my father. He came here twice, she told us. The second time, he was frightened. Did he take copies? I asked. He took one tape. Where are the others? A man collected them after the court case. Who? She searched old records. The pickup authorization was signed by Daniel Cross, and my husband had removed the backup evidence before we married. Daniel had been investigating my family long before he proposed to me. When I returned to the townhouse that night, grief finally broke through the strategy. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried until breathing hurt. Every memory became suspect. Our first meeting at a charity audit conference, his fascination with my work, his eagerness to help after my father died, his proposal inside the empty office where Dad and I had started. Had any of it been real? Lena sat beside me without speaking. After a while, I said, he married me for the archive. Maybe. That should make it easier. It doesn't. No betrayal does not hurt less when it has an explanation. Sometimes the explanation simply reveals how long the wound has existed. Chapter 12. The paternity trap. Claire called me the next morning. I want to meet. Why? Because Daniel is becoming dangerous. You announced his baby on a live stream. I did what Gavin told me. Which one do you work for? She did not answer. We met in the lobby of a hotel with cameras, staff, and Lena seated nearby. Claire wore sunglasses and a loose black coat. You stole my watch, she said. It was found in company property. You listened to private conversations. A court will decide whether the recording is admissible. The preservation was lawful. Her jaw tightened. You always speak as if rules will save you. They have worked better for me than lies have worked for you. She removed her sunglasses. For the first time, I saw fear instead of performance. Daniel knows the baby may not be his. Because of the paternity test? Her hand moved toward her stomach. You found the receipt. Yes. I left the test in his car deliberately. The admission surprised me. Why? I wanted you to investigate. You accused me of harassment. I needed Daniel to believe I was loyal. You helped suspend me. I needed access to the archive. Why? To find proof against Gavin. The story was possible. It was also convenient. Your smartwatch says you plan to destroy the archive. I was telling Gavin what he wanted to hear. And the affair? Her face hardened. Daniel approached me first. That does not answer the question. Yes, I slept with him. To gain access? At first. And later? She looked away. I liked being chosen. By my husband? By someone who had chosen you first. There it was, not merely revenge for her mother, envy, competition, the desire to replace me. My father did not create your mother's crimes, I said. He humiliated her. She stole from vulnerable families. She said Gavin forced her. Then why are you working with Gavin? Because he has my father. I stared at her. Leonard is alive? I think so. Claire slid a photograph across the table. A gray-haired man sat in a wheelchair beside a window. A newspaper dated 2 months earlier rested on his lap. Leonard Price. Claire's missing father. Gavin sends photographs when he wants me obedient, she said. What does Daniel know? That Leonard survived. Not where he is. Why should I believe you? Because the paternity results arrive tomorrow. And? If the child is Gavin's, Daniel becomes disposable. She leaned toward me. He plans to kill the acquisition, blame you for it, and leave the country with the remaining Aurora money. Who plans to leave? Gavin. With you? No, Claire's voice broke. With my baby. Chapter 13. The price of believing her. Claire wanted immunity, money, and protection. In exchange, she offered testimony, access to Gavin's communications, and the location of a safe deposit key connected to the missing Aurora funds. Lena advised against making promises. We are not prosecutors, she said. We cannot grant immunity. Claire grew angry. You need me. I need the truth, I replied. That does not mean you control the price. She agreed to speak with investigators. Before the meeting occurred, Daniel found out. Someone photographed Claire entering the hotel and sent it to him. That evening, Daniel appeared at my townhouse. The security camera recorded him pounding on the door. You are manipulating her, he shouted. I spoke through the intercom. Leave. She is pregnant with my child. You know that may not be true. His face changed. Claire told you about the test. The pharmacy receipt told me. You stole that from my car. I found it beneath the driver's seat. He stepped closer to the camera. You ruined our marriage over a receipt. No, Daniel. The receipt introduced me to the marriage you were already living. He lowered his voice. Give me the ledger. What ledger? Do not play games. My father was right about Gavin. Your father was paranoid. My father photographed you with Leonard Price. For the first time, Daniel lost control. He struck the door with the side of his fist. You know nothing about that man. Then explain. I was trying to protect you. By taking Aurora's backup tapes? Your father left dangers everywhere. Did you marry me for the archive? His silence lasted too long. Then he said, I loved you. Past tense, the words hurt despite everything. Daniel looked toward the street. You think Claire is helping you? She is not. She left that test because she wanted you and me fighting while she accessed the files. She admitted it. She will admit anything that saves her. Unlike you? His face went cold. The gala is in 6 days. If you interfere, I will release evidence that you fabricated the Aurora ledger. You cannot. I can release whatever people are prepared to believe. He left. The next morning, Claire did not appear for her meeting with investigators. Her phone was disconnected, her apartment was empty, and in the bedroom closet, police found a blood-stained scarf bearing my fingerprints. Chapter 14. Framed. I had touched the scarf at the hotel. Claire had worn it around her neck. During our conversation, it slipped to the floor. I picked it up and handed it back. Now it was stained with blood and hidden in her abandoned apartment. The police questioned me for 3 hours, had an alibi for the night Claire disappeared. But the scarf created a public disaster. Daniel's attorney released a statement expressing concern for Claire's safety, suggested that my obsession had escalated. News outlets repeated the phrase. Suspended executive questioned in disappearance of pregnant employee. The board scheduled an emergency vote to remove me permanently. Uncle Robert resigned as trustee, claiming the pressure had affected his health. Under my father's trust, the successor trustee was the firm's longest-serving independent partner, Martin Hayes. Martin had supported Daniel in every recent vote, was losing control legally, publicly, and emotionally. The apparent evidence was turning against me exactly as Daniel had promised. Lena advised me not to appear at the office. "You look defensive if you hide," I said. "You look reckless if you walk into a hostile board while police are investigating a disappearance." The police found no body and no proof of injury, only Claire's blood. The amount was small enough to come from a cut or medical draw. Remembered the paternity test. North Star would have collected Claire's blood. Someone could have placed it on the scarf. The same laboratory had also collected samples from Daniel and Gavin. The framing evidence was connected to the positive test, again, served North Star with a preservation demand. The laboratory responded that Claire's case file had been deleted at the customer's request. Was that lawful? I asked Lena. Medical laboratories have retention obligations. Complete deletion is unlikely. Then someone altered the system. The purchase receipt contained a case order number. Enlarged the photograph. Beneath the NIPP line was a barcode and 12-digit reference. The original test and receipt were gone, but the photograph preserved the number. North Star confirmed that the order existed. IT had not been deleted. IT had been moved to a restricted legal account after someone reported identity fraud. The report had been made by Marin Price, not Claire Dawson. Claire was still acting somewhere. She had staged her disappearance. The blood-stained scarf was not proof that Daniel had harmed her. IT was proof that Claire was helping frame me or pretending to. At midnight, an email arrived from her real address. Had to disappear. Gavin was watching. Attached was the prenatal paternity report. Daniel Cross. Excluded. Gavin Rowe. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. The baby was not my husband's. Claire had sent me the evidence. But she had also left my fingerprints on a blood-stained scarf. Dill did not know whose side she was on. At Chapter 15, Serena's betrayal. Serena Kim had served as our chief financial officer for 7 years. She had been my closest ally inside the company. When Daniel moved to suspend me, Serena initially abstained. After Claire disappeared, she voted to remove me as chairwoman. The vote passed. Martin Hayes became acting chair. Daniel remained managing partner. The Rowe Gala stayed on schedule. Serena then signed an internal declaration accusing me of irregular withdrawals from a confidential client restitution account. The account contained $12 million recovered in the Aurora case, had never authorized withdrawals. But the audit trail showed my digital signature. The company froze my distributions and referred the matter to law enforcement. Felt physically sick when Lena showed me Serena's declaration. She knows I did not steal that money. She says she verified the signature. Then Daniel bought her. Or threatened her. Either possibility felt like betrayal. My mother begged me to stop. Let the police handle it, she said. The company is not worth your life. It was Dad's life. And now you are letting it consume yours. She was right about the danger, wrong about the choice. I surrendered. Daniel and Gavin would gain the archives, the restitution account, and the ability to rewrite what my father had uncovered. Could not save the past. But I could refuse to hand it to the people who had corrupted it. Lena and I reviewed the withdrawal signature. IT appeared to be mine. The certificate serial number matched my executive token. But the signing time was 2:13 in the morning. I had been at the police station. Security footage proved it. Someone had cloned my digital certificate. The same method might have been used to authenticate Claire's fake employment documents. Serena knew that. Why would she sign a false declaration? Then I noticed the amount withdrawn, $8,420,000. 420. Exact rewards point balance printed on the pharmacy receipt. Too precise to be coincidence. Serena had inserted the number deliberately. She was communicating without contacting me. I looked again at her declaration. The first letter of each paragraph spelled a message. Check Dad's clock. And why Father's old office clock still hung in the private archive room. Behind its wooden backplate, Lena and I found a flash drive. Serena had copied the original financial logs before Daniel altered them. The logs showed she had not betrayed me. She had signed the declaration to remain inside the company and preserve evidence. Daniel believed he had taken my last ally. In reality, Serena was standing beside him with a knife made of numbers. Chapter 16 The hidden account. The original logs revealed that Daniel had transferred the Aurora restitution money into a temporary holding account controlled by Rho Meridian, used my cloned digital certificate to authorize it. The money had not yet left the United States because Serena placed an automatic compliance hold on the account. She disguised the hold as a technical delay. At the gala, Daniel planned to announce the acquisition, release the hold, and move the funds offshore. During the confusion, the same logs showed payments to a private security contractor. The contractor had leased a warehouse outside Milwaukee. Federal agents obtained a warrant. Inside the warehouse, they found Leonard Price alive. He was ill, heavily medicated, and guarded by two men connected to Gavin Rowe. Claire had told the truth about her father. She had also helped Gavin conceal him for years. Leonard was taken into protective medical custody. Investigators did not announce the rescue. They wanted Gavin to proceed with the gala. For the first time, we held an advantage he did not know about. Leonard's initial statement was fragmented, but he confirmed the second ledger was genuine, that Gavin had created the Aurora shell companies. Celeste Price had participated willingly at first, then attempted to withdraw. Gavin threatened the family. Leonard fled with part of the evidence but was captured years later after contacting Daniel. Why Daniel? I asked the investigator. Mr. Price believed Daniel was working for your father. My stomach turned. Daniel had presented himself as my father's representative, used that lie to gain Leonard's trust, then he delivered Leonard to Gavin. Did my father know Daniel? I asked. Leonard says your father was investigating him. The truth sharpened. Daniel had not met me by chance. Gavin had placed him near our firm. Perhaps he was supposed to recover the ledger and leave. Instead, he married me, gained shares, and built a life inside the company. Had he ever planned to stay? Had love complicated the assignment, or had love itself been another strategy? The answer no longer changed what I needed to do. The gala was 2 days away. Gavin believed Leonard remained imprisoned. Daniel believed Serena had turned against me. Claire was still missing, and Martin Hayes intended to authorize the sale using the trust vote. Could stop the transaction privately with an injunction, but a quiet delay would allow Daniel and Gavin to blame me, destroy more evidence, and escape. I wanted the lies exposed where they had chosen to celebrate them. At the gala, their live stream, before every investor, partner, employee, and reporter they had invited to witness my replacement. Chapter 17 The pregnancy announcement. The acquisition gala was held at the Grand Clarion Hotel. The ballroom overlooked the Chicago River. Stage had been built beneath a screen displaying two logos: Bennett Financial INTEGRIT and ROWE Meridian CAPITAL. Between them was a gold arrow pointing toward the new name. Crossrow Health Advisor. My family name had already vanished. Daniel intended to replace it before the sale was legally complete. The invitation described the evening as a celebration of legacy, family, and the next generation. Claire's pregnancy would be part of the presentation, but Claire was officially missing. Daniel still intended to use her. That meant he knew where she was. Lena and I entered through the main doors. Cameras turned toward us immediately. Daniel walked across the ballroom. You are not invited, he said. I am still the majority beneficial owner. The board removed you. The board removed me from management. It did not erase my ownership. Martin Hayes approached. This is not the place for conflict. You selected the place, I said. Security hesitated. The hotel's attorneys had already received Lena's notice confirming my ownership rights and warning against unlawful exclusion. They allowed us inside. Daniel leaned close. If you make a scene, you will be arrested. For what? Claire's blood was found in her apartment. And yet you decorated the stage for her pregnancy announcement. His eyes flickered. He had not expected me to understand that contradiction. The live stream began. Gavin Rowe took the stage and praised Daniel's leadership. Daniel spoke about difficult personal transitions. He described himself as a man choosing the future over bitterness. Then the ballroom lights dimmed. A recorded video of Claire appeared on the screen. She wore a white dress and stood inside an unfamiliar room. Daniel and I are thrilled to announce that our baby will arrive this winter, she said. The audience applauded uncertainly. The video had been recorded after her alleged disappearance. Would you like to tell the police when that video was made? The room fell silent. Daniel stared at me. I continued, or should we begin with the positive pregnancy test you hid in your car? Chapter 18. The pharmacy receipt returns. The photograph of the receipt appeared on the ballroom screen. Serena controlled the presentation system from inside the technical booth. Daniel turned toward the booth, but the doors had already been secured by hotel management under instruction from federal investigators. Addressed the audience 3 weeks ago. I found a positive pregnancy test beneath Daniel's driver's seat. The attached receipt identified the purchaser as Marin Price. Claire's old photograph appeared beside her company headshot. Several reporters stood. Claire Dawson is Marin Price, I said. Her mother founded Aurora Fertility Network, the subject of a major fraud investigation conducted by this firm. Gavin reached for his microphone. This is a personal attack on a protected witness. No, I said. It is disclosure of an undisclosed conflict in a $90 million transaction. The falsified resume appeared next, then Claire's connections to Gavin's dissolved consultancy, then the corporate payments for her apartment and paternity testing. Daniel attempted to leave the stage. 2 investigators stepped into the aisle. They did not arrest him, not yet, they simply blocked the exit. The receipt did more than reveal Claire's real name, I continued. It contained the reference number for a prenatal paternity test paid for with company funds. Daniel looked toward Gavin. Gavin did not look back. The paternity report appeared. Daniel Cross. Excluded. Sound moved through the ballroom like wind. Daniel's face lost all color. He turned toward Gavin. You said the test was inconclusive. Gavin remained silent. The second result appeared. Gavin Rowe. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. Daniel crossed the stage before anyone could stop him. You were sleeping with her? Gavin's expression was almost amused. You were useful, Daniel. The phrase matched what Leonard later said Gavin called him. Claire had not chosen Daniel over me. She and Gavin had chosen him as a tool. The alliance shattered in front of everyone. Daniel looked at the audience, then at me. This does not change the acquisition. It changes the undisclosed conflicts, Martin Hayes said quietly. For the first time, he sounded uncertain. I turned to him. We are only beginning. Chapter 19. The dead man walks in. The ballroom doors opened. Leonard Price entered in a wheelchair accompanied by federal agents and medical staff. Claire's father had been declared missing for 8 years. Gavin looked as though he had seen a corpse stand up. Leonard's voice was weak but audible through the microphone. Gavin Rowe controlled the Aurora accounts. Gavin stepped backward. This man is mentally impaired. I know where the money went, Leonard said. The black ledger appeared on the screen. Beside it were bank records corroborating the entries. Leonard identified the offshore companies, the restitution money, and Daniel's role in removing backup evidence. Daniel shook his head. I thought I was protecting Avery. By delivering me to Gavin? Leonard asked. The room went silent again. Daniel looked at me. Avery, I can explain. I almost laughed. He'd said those words during every stage of his betrayal, when I found the corporate payments, when he admitted the affair, when he removed me from my company. Now the man he had helped imprison was accusing him publicly. Serena displayed the original financial logs. The Aurora restitution account was transferred using a cloned version of Avery Bennett's digital signature, she said. Daniel stared at Serena. You signed the audit declaration. I signed exactly what you told me to sign, Serena replied. And I preserved the original logs exactly where Avery's father taught me to preserve them. The compliance hold remained active. The money had not escaped. Gavin's attorney whispered urgently to him. Martin Hayes called for an immediate recess of the acquisition vote. I shook my head. No. The owners deserve a recorded vote. You are no longer chair, Martin said. No, but I remain the majority beneficial owner, and your authority as successor trustee depends on acting in the trust's best interest. Lena placed a court order on the evidence table. That afternoon, a judge had temporarily suspended Martin's control of the trust after reviewing evidence of undisclosed conflicts and the planned destruction of archives. Why voting rights had returned. The sale could not proceed without me. I looked at Gavin. The acquisition is rejected. Then I looked at Daniel, and your employment is terminated for cause. The gold crossrow logo remained behind him, but the transaction beneath it had collapsed. Chapter 20. Claire's live confession. The ballroom screen went black, then Claire appeared live. She was sitting inside a federal interview room with her attorney. Daniel moved toward the screen. Claire? My name is Marin, she said. Her voice shook, but she did not look away. I used Claire Dawson's identity to enter Bennett Financial Integrity. Gavin Rowe arranged the documents and references. She admitted seducing Daniel to gain access to the Aurora archives. At first, Daniel did not know who I was, she said. After he learned, he agreed to help because Gavin promised him control of the company. Daniel shouted, "That is a lie." Claire continued, Daniel knew the pregnancy announcement was being used to pressure Avery and influence the partners. He believed the child was his, even after I told him there was uncertainty. Why did you leave the test in his car? I asked. Claire's eyes shifted toward me through the camera, because I found the paternity service receipt in Gavin's briefcase. It showed he had submitted his own sample. I realized both men were lying to me. You planted the test for me to find. Yes. And the receipt? Yes. You could have contacted me directly. I thought you would destroy me before listening. So you helped them destroy me first? Her face crumpled. I told myself I was creating leverage. She admitted staging her disappearance. The blood on the scarf came from her paternity test draw. Gavin's security team had prepared the apartment scene to implicate me. Claire cooperated because Gavin threatened Leonard. Then she discovered investigators had found her father. That was when she surrendered. Daniel looked at her as though she had personally betrayed him. Perhaps in his mind, he had been willing to leave his wife, steal her company, and help frame her. But he still expected loyalty from his mistress. Claire then revealed the final part of the scheme. After the acquisition, Gavin intended to fire Daniel and transfer the archives to an offshore subsidiary. The pregnancy announcement gave Daniel confidence and distracted the media. The child was never intended to secure Daniel's future. It was intended to make him reckless. Gavin Rowe had used Daniel's vanity as effectively as Daniel had used my grief. When Claire's testimony ended, federal agents approached Gavin. He was arrested on charges connected to financial conspiracy, obstruction, unlawful detention, and attempted transfer of restricted funds. Daniel was served with a separate warrant. He looked at me while agents placed him in custody. You knew this would happen. I followed the receipt. That's all? No, I thought of my father's warning, Serena's numbers, the smartwatch, Leonard, and Claire's staged disappearance. The receipt opened the door. Your choices led me through it. Chapter 21. What Daniel claimed was love. Daniel was released pending trial under strict conditions. His passport was surrendered, his assets were frozen, was barred from contacting company employees, Claire, Gavin, Leonard, Serena, or me except through attorneys. The divorce petition I filed requested no dramatic punishment for an equitable division of marital property, confirmation that my inherited company interests remained separate, and compensation for corporate funds used to support the affair. Daniel contested everything, then he asked to meet through mediation. He looked older when he entered the conference room, not transformed, just diminished. I loved you, he said. Lena began to object, but I raised one hand. I want to hear this. Daniel looked at me. Gavin placed me near the firm. That part is true. You met me deliberately. Yes. Did you marry me deliberately? At first, I was supposed to learn where your father kept the ledger. At first? Then I fell in love with you. You expect that to comfort me? No. Did you love me when you took the backup tapes? I thought the case was over. Did you love me when you helped Gavin hold Leonard? I didn't know where Gavin took him. You knew enough. Daniel closed his eyes. I kept telling myself I could get out. By selling my company to him? By controlling the deal. You thought you were smarter than Gavin. Yes. And smarter than me. His silence answered, what about Marin? She admired me. I almost pitied him, almost. You had a wife who built a life with you, but admiration from a woman you barely knew mattered more. You stopped needing me. I became successful. You were always successful. So you punished me for it? I wanted something that was mine. The firm gave you shares. Our home was ours. Our marriage was ours. No. It all began with Bennett. There it was, the resentment beneath every justification. He did not merely want love, he wanted authorship. If you wanted to build something of your own, I said, you could have built it. I did. No. You tried to rename mine. Daniel began to cry. I have nothing left. That is not true. You still have every decision you made. He asked whether I could ever forgive him. I may stop feeling angry one day, I said. That is not the same as allowing you back into my life. The mediation ended without reconciliation. For the first time, walking away did not feel like losing him. It felt like returning myself. Chapter 22. The company after the scandal. Bennett financial integrity survived. But survival required more than removing Daniel's name from his office, hired independent auditors, notified clients whose files had been accessed during acquisition planning, restored the Aurora restitution funds, created new controls so no executive, including me, could authorize major transfers alone. Some partners left, several clients terminated contracts, the firm lost money for 2 quarters. But we kept the archives intact. Also changed the corporate structure. Why father's voting trust had failed because one resentful relative could be manipulated, replaced it with an independent fiduciary committee and transparent conflict rules. Uncle Robert returned the advisory fee Daniel had advanced him and cooperated with investigators, did not restore him as trustee. Family forgiveness did not require professional trust. Serena became chief operating officer. She refused a celebratory announcement. I voted to remove you, she reminded me, to preserve evidence. People still got hurt. That is why we build a system where no one has to make that choice again. Claire Marin entered a cooperation agreement. She faced charges for identity fraud, conspiracy, false statements, and participation in the staged disappearance. Her assistance reduced the likely sentence but did not erase accountability. The pregnancy continued. She gave birth to a daughter 7 months after the gala. Gavin Rowe was confirmed as the father through court-ordered testing. Daniel had no parental claim, had publicly destroyed his marriage for a child who was never his. Yet the child was innocent. Marin named her Hope. I did not visit, I did not send flowers, but when a reporter asked whether I blamed the baby, I answered honestly, no child is responsible for the plan adults built around her. That sentence became popular online. People called me gracious. They did not see the nights I still woke furious. Healing is not a clean performance. It is the slow decision not to pass pain forward. Chapter 23. My father's last recording. 6 months after the gala, Serena found another item behind my father's office clock. A miniature digital recorder. The battery was dead, but the memory remained intact. The final file was dated 2 weeks before Dad's heart attack. His voice sounded tired. Avery, if you are hearing this, I waited too long to explain. I gripped the edge of the desk. He described investigating Gavin Rowe, Leonard Price, and the missing Aurora funds. Then he mentioned Daniel. Daniel Cross approached me pretending to represent a federal whistleblower. I did not believe him. He asked too many questions about you. My breath caught. I warned you to stay away from him, Dad continued. You thought I disliked him because he was ambitious. The truth is, I feared he had been sent to get close to the firm. I remembered arguments, Dad calling Daniel charming but untested, accusing Dad of refusing to respect my choices. After Dad died, Daniel comforted me by saying my father had finally accepted him. That had been another lie. The recording continued. I placed false location references in 3 files. Anyone searching for the ledger will follow the wrong trail unless they have help from inside the family. Inside the family, Uncle Robert had known about the private room, but not the ledger. Had someone else helped Daniel? Dad's voice became quieter. I may be wrong. Daniel may genuinely love you. That is what makes him dangerous. A man can love a person and still choose his own hunger over her safety. I closed my eyes, and why father had understood Daniel before I did. The recording ended with one final statement. The second ledger is not the only thing Gavin wants. Aurora kept genetic identity records for reasons we never proved. There was a separate project financed through pharmacy rewards accounts. Pharmacy rewards accounts. The pregnancy test receipt had shown Marin's name because of a rewards profile. had assumed it was an ordinary consumer account, maybe it was not, requested the complete transaction history through the ongoing litigation. Lakeview Family Pharmacy produced records linked to Marin's rewards number. The account had two user profiles. One belonged to Marin Price, the second belonged to a woman named Eleanor Bennett. My mother. Chapter 24. My mother's name. My mother denied ever using Lakeview Family Pharmacy. She had lived in Arizona for 3 years and filled prescriptions through a national chain. The account contained her correct birth date, her old address, and the final 4 digits of her social security number. Someone had created a pharmacy identity under her name. The purchase history began 7 years earlier. Pregnancy tests, hormonal medications, prenatal vitamins. 3 Paternity kits. All purchased in Illinois. My mother was 68. She had undergone a hysterectomy before the account was opened. The identity was being used by someone else. Lena requested security footage, but most video had been deleted under routine retention policies. 1 Purchase occurred only 4 months earlier. The store still had images. A woman wearing a hat and large sunglasses approached the register. She looked younger than my mother. The camera angle did not show her full face, but she wore a silver bracelet shaped like a winding vine. Recognized it. My father had given an identical bracelet to my younger sister, Lily, on her 18th birthday. Lily died in a car accident 12 years ago. That was what we had been told. My mother stared at the image until her hands began to shake. That is Lily's bracelet. Could someone else have taken it after the accident? No. It was never recovered. The accident occurred in rural Indiana. Lily's car burned after leaving the road. Authorities identified her through dental records provided by a private clinic. Aurora Fertility Network had owned that clinic. My mother sat down. What are you saying? I don't know yet. We reopened every document connected to Lily's death. The dentist who provided the records had later been charged in an unrelated Aurora billing scheme. The county had not performed independent DNA testing. There had been no visual identification. The pharmacy account under my mother's name had been opened 6 months after Lily's funeral. Someone used that identity for fertility-related purchases. The most recent pregnancy test had been purchased 1 week before Marin's. Both accounts used the same laboratory order prefix. The positive test in Daniel's car had exposed Marin's real name. It had also exposed a system of stolen names connected to my family. Chapter 25. The divorce decree. My divorce became final 11 months after I found the test. Daniel pleaded guilty to financial conspiracy, evidence tampering, and fraud involving the attempted Roe acquisition. Continued to deny knowing that Gavin held Leonard against his will. His sentence had not yet been imposed. Gavin faced a longer list of charges. Marin awaited sentencing after Hope's birth. The judge confirmed that Daniel had no claim to my inherited shares. The corporate payments for Claire's apartment, medical services, and paternity testing were treated as dissipation of marital and company assets. Daniel was ordered to reimburse what he could. Most of his remaining wealth would go to restitution. At the final hearing, he asked to speak. Avery, I know I have no right to ask anything of you. That has never stopped you before. He accepted the insult. Was any part of us real to you? He asked. The question surprised me. Yes. His eyes filled. I thought you would say no. No would be easier. I loved you. I believed in us. Those years were real to me. And to me. Then you betrayed something real. That makes your choices worse, not better. He lowered his head. I am sorry. I know. Does that matter? It matters that you finally understand what the words are for. It does not change the outcome. The judge signed the decree. Outside the courthouse, I removed my wedding ring. I did not throw it away. I placed it inside an envelope with the pharmacy receipt photograph and my father's recording. Not as a shrine to pain, not as evidence of the woman I had once been, someone who believed trust meant never checking, and no longer believed that trust was not blindness. Trust was the freedom to look and find honesty. Daniel had mistaken my love for an unwillingness to see. The positive test proved him wrong. Chapter 26. The new Bennett firm. 1 year after the failed acquisition, Bennett Financial Integrity opened a patient consent and identity fraud unit. Our first major project reviewed fertility and genetic testing companies for misuse of identities, payments, and biological records. I led the unit personally. Some people accused me of turning private pain into business. They were right. Pain becomes useful when it protects someone else. I helped identify 11 women whose names had been used without consent in pharmacy and laboratory systems linked to Aurora. Several had no connection to fertility treatment. 2 were deceased, 1 was missing. The pharmacy rewards accounts acted as informal identity profiles, linking purchases, laboratory orders, addresses, and payment methods. Gavin's network had used them to build false medical histories. The purpose remained unclear. Some accounts supported insurance fraud. Others concealed pregnancy and paternity services. 1 appeared connected to the trafficking of genetic samples. The account under my mother's name showed 5 separate laboratory case numbers. 4 had been closed. The 5th remained active. Its status read, maternal identity confirmed. Paternity pending. The purchase was recent. Someone using my dead sister's bracelet had taken a pregnancy test and submitted a paternity case under my mother's identity. Asked Lena to seek an emergency court order before it could be served. Lakeview Family Pharmacy suffered a server breach. The account history disappeared. The laboratory claimed the case number did not exist. Once again, the original receipt photograph became essential. Its barcode structure allowed our forensic team to reconstruct the laboratory prefix and identify a backup vendor. The vendor had preserved a shipping record. The collection kit had been sent to a house in Wisconsin. The property was owned by a shell company once controlled by Leonard Price. Leonard agreed to speak with me. When I showed him the security image, he began crying. I thought she was dead. Who? Your sister. My mother made a broken sound beside me. Leonard covered his face. Lily came to Aurora before the accident. She was pregnant. I felt the room tilt. Pregnant by whom? Leonard looked directly at me. Daniel Cross. Chapter 27. Before Daniel met me, Daniel had always claimed we met at the charity audit conference 10 years earlier. Leonard said Daniel had known Lily before that. Lily was 24, impulsive, and studying graphic design. She volunteered at a women's health nonprofit connected to Aurora. Daniel, then 29, worked as an outside consultant for Gavin. According to Leonard, Lily discovered irregular patient files and threatened to tell my father. She also told Daniel she was pregnant. Weeks later, her car crashed. Leonard insisted he did not know whether the crash was deliberate. Afterward, Gavin ordered the Aurora staff to treat Lily's records as restricted. Was the baby Daniel's? I asked. Lily believed so. Did she survive the accident? Leonard shook his head. I heard rumors. A woman was moved from the county hospital before your family arrived. Gavin said the identification had been handled. My mother gripped my hand. We buried someone. I'm sorry, Leonard whispered. Daniel had married me after a relationship with my sister. He never told me. Had he known Lily might be alive, the active paternity case suggested someone wanted that question answered now. Lena arranged a monitored prison call with Daniel. He denied everything at first. Then I mentioned the pharmacy account. His breathing changed. Is Lily alive? I asked. I don't know. You knew her? Yes. Was she pregnant? Yes. Was the baby yours? I thought it was. What happened the night of the crash? I was in Chicago. That is not what I asked. Daniel's voice became unsteady. Gavin told me Lily had taken money and disappeared. Then the news reported the accident. You attended the funeral? From a distance. Why did you later approach me? At first, to find out what Lily had told your father. And then? I fell in love with you. The same explanation, the same excuse. Did you marry me because I reminded you of her? No, he answered too quickly. Daniel, did you know the body was never identified independently? Silence. Then he whispered, Gavin said some dead people are more useful when their families stop searching. The call disconnected. That evening, an overnight package arrived at my office. Inside was a positive pregnancy test sealed in a plastic bag. A Lakeview Family Pharmacy receipt was wrapped around it. The customer name was Eleanor Bennett. The test date was 5 weeks earlier. On the back of the receipt, someone had written an address in Wisconsin. Below it were 6 words: "Your sister has been waiting for you." Chapter 28. The house in Wisconsin. Lena wanted law enforcement to approach the property. First, I agreed. I had learned the difference between courage and recklessness. Investigators entered the Wisconsin house the next morning. The tea was empty. The refrigerator contained fresh food. A bedroom closet held women's clothes. A bathroom drawer contained prenatal vitamins from Lakeview Family Pharmacy. The kitchen table lay a photograph of my family taken when Lily and I were children. My face had been circled. The silver vine bracelet rested on top. No person was found, but the basement contained a locked records room. Inside were copies of Aurora genetic files, pharmacy account lists, and photographs of Daniel, Gavin, Marin, my father, and me. The earliest photograph of Daniel and Lily was dated 11 years before I met him. Another image showed Lily entering a clinic 6 months after her reported death. She had survived. At least for a time. A laboratory report indicated she delivered a baby girl. The father was listed only by a sample code. The same code later appeared on Daniel's paternity submission for Marin's pregnancy. Daniel's genetic profile had been stored in the network for more than a decade. The final document was a recent ultrasound report. The patient name was Eleanor Bennett. The woman using my mother's identity was currently pregnant. A handwritten note on the report read, "Second generation confirmed. Do not contact Avery until the cross trial is complete. Second generation." That could refer to Lily's first child. Or to something far stranger. My phone rang from a blocked number, answered while investigators photographed the basement. A woman breathed quietly on the other end. "Lily?" The voice that answered sounded older than my sister, but familiar enough to make my knees weaken. "Avery." I closed my eyes. My mother began crying before I said a word. "Where are you?" "I can't tell you." "Are you safe?" "No." "Who is threatening you?" "The same person who gave Marin the receipt." "Marin left the receipt for me." "No," Lily said. "She only believed she did." I looked at the pregnancy test on the evidence table. "Are you pregnant?" A long silence followed, then Lily whispered, "The test wasn't mine." "Whose was it?" "You have a niece, Avery." My heart stopped. "She is 20 years old now. And Gavin has been preparing her to take your place." The line crackled. Before it disconnected, Lily said one final sentence: "Daniel was never the man who chose you." The call ended. A photograph arrived seconds later. It showed a young woman standing outside Bennett Financial Integrity. She had Lily's dark hair. Daniel's eyes, and my employee identification badge clipped to her coat. Beneath the photograph was a message: "She starts work Monday." The positive pregnancy test had revealed my husband's mistress. The receipt had revealed her real name, but the names inside the pharmacy system were still opening doors, and someone wearing my family's face was about to walk through the next one. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, hidden identities, female courage, and the kind of justice that begins with one small clue no one expected a woman to notice. For more exciting content, please subscribe and follow us.